Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a seriously fascinating financial argument put together by the developers of Moti City. They've crunched the numbers on real estate economics right here in the Delhi NCR region, and we're looking specifically at their data comparing the long-term impacts of renting versus owning. So let's just jump straight into how they're framing this modern housing dilemma.
And to do that, we're actually going to start with a pretty provocative question drawn straight from their analysis. Are you paying your landlord's mortgage? It's a super direct way to force us to think critically about exactly whose wealth our monthly salary is actually building. It really sets the stage for the numbers we're about to look at.
So, part one, the rent burn concept.
The developers use this specific, kind of intense term to describe the reality for young professionals renting in popular Noida sectors right now. They call it rent burn. What does that mean? Well, they define it as that endless cycle of handing over a massive chunk of your hard-earned cash every single month just to get a paid receipt. You're building absolutely zero equity. It's strictly an expense. To ground this, let's look at their current market numbers. If you're eyeing popular spots in Noida, think Sector 75 or 137, you're looking at a standard outflow of about 25,000 to 35,000 rupees a month for a standard 2 BHK apartment. And hey, right now, today, that might feel like a totally manageable slice of your salary.
But that brings us to part two, the hidden math.
Because stopping your analysis at today's rent, the source argues that's a huge mistake. We need to pull back the curtain and see how these numbers actually behave when they compound over a decade. So, assuming a pretty standard 10% year-over-year rent hike, your housing costs are going to scale aggressively. You start at 25,000 in year one, right? But by year 5, boom, you're looking at 40,000. And that curve just keeps bending upwards.
Which leads us to this frankly staggering number, 64,000 rupees. Yes, based on their math, you could literally be paying 64 grand a month to rent that exact same apartment 10 years from now. You're not getting an extra bedroom, you're not getting better amenities, you're just paying way more to maintain your current standard of living, all thanks to inflation.
And when you total all that up by the end of the decade, the source calculates a massive financial outflow of around 38 lakhs. That is a 100% financial loss bored straight into what the developers describe as a leaky bucket. I mean, think about that. You spend nearly 40 lakhs and your ownership stake is still sitting at exactly 0%. No way around it.
All right, moving on to section 3, fixed EMI versus rising rent.
So after painting that rather bleak picture of renting, what alternative do they propose? Well, they set up a really clear contrast. In the red corner, you've got those ever-rising Noida rents starting at 25K and jumping 10% every single year. But in the blue corner, ownership at Moti City offers a locked, predictable EMI of exactly 30,231 rupees. The magic word here is fixed versus floating.
This 10-year side-by-side comparison is really the absolute crux of their whole argument. Looking at the rental side, we see that roughly 38 lakhs of total outflow evaporating into zero asset value and zero ownership. But look at the ownership side. The developers project that converting that exact same monthly cash into an EMI gets you 100% ownership of an asset they estimate will be worth 65 lakhs or more. So they're framing this not just as finding a place to sleep, but as a serious wealth-building engine.
And because that EMI is locked in, they point out this fascinating crossover timeline. See, while your mortgage payment stays completely frozen at roughly 30,000 rupees, the rent around you just keeps climbing. Their math actually suggests that by year 3, just 3 years in, your fixed payment will be lower than what a new tenant is paying in rent, and by year 10, you're basically paying half of what the market dictates for rent. That is a game changer.
Next up, section 4, the connectivity game changer. Now you might be wondering, okay, but why Modinagar? Why would I move away from the big employment hubs in Noida or Delhi? Well, the developers point to a massive infrastructure shift to justify this, specifically something they call the RRTS multiplier. They're talking about the new Namo Bharat train. Their argument is that this high-speed transit literally collapses distance. It makes cross-city travel from Modinagar into Delhi NCR work hubs even faster than taking a local metro within the city itself. So they're essentially flipping the old real estate rule on its head. Instead of owning close to work, they're telling us to own close to connectivity, while still getting that GDA-approved lifestyle.
Which brings us to our final section, building wealth over time.
According to their analysis, this huge leap in connectivity is the exact catalyst that makes this entire strategy work. Here's the timeline they've mapped out. In year 1, you make a 42 lakh investment into this emerging, high-growth corridor.
As we saw, by year 3, your fixed EMI structurally beats the crazy local rent inflation. And by year 10, as that Namal-Bharat network fully integrates the whole region, they project that initial 42 lakh property will have grown into an asset worth over 65 lakhs. They are directly linking property appreciation to this new regional transit.
Ultimately, the developer's overarching thesis boils down to this one powerful idea. The transition from tenant to owner is a shift from expense to investment. They're framing home ownership not just as, securing a roof over your head. They see it as a highly deliberate financial maneuver, a necessary strategy to completely insulate yourself from a lifetime of unpredictable rent hikes and leaky bucket economics.
Which brings us to our final thought, and a question I really want to leave you to ponder. Based on all the arguments and the math we've looked at today from the developers, are you funding an expense or an investment? Whether you fully agree with their real estate projections or not, the contrast between building fixed equity and getting crushed by compounding rent inflation is absolutely something every professional needs to evaluate for their own long-term game plan. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep exploring the numbers behind the decisions you make every single day.